Hello and welcome to my channel again. So today I'll be looking at how to position anything using HTML and CSS. So just position them vertically or horizontally. So there are various ways to achieve this goal. In short, there are thousands, let me not exaggerate. There will be various ways of executing the same tasks, but I'm going to show you 7 different ways in order for you to position anything using CSS on your website. If you've not subscribed to my channel, please do so, because I'll be releasing more contents like this. So please subscribe to my channel and leave a like and possibly on the notification. Thanks for watching. So now let's get to the code. I have this layout here, you can see. So I have a nav bar that are positioned at the middle of this container, and this stuff here, position anything center, then some text, even my image, which is also responsive, and if you can see it's at the middle of my page. So now bring this down. You see the image is responsive, so basically I have a responsive layout. So now let's minimize that. So basically I've created a nav containing an unordered list, then some links. I've created a container, give the container a class called spacing. So if you've not watched my other video where I talked on the basics of HTML, you should probably go watch that in order for you to know what a class is. So class is just an attribute, and I've named it spacing. So this container on my div tag is having h1 and this div, then this div, then the image. So I've created another tag, which is the main tag, still having the class spacing, then a form and another form. So that's all for the HTML part. So now for the CSS, have a universal selector. So the universal selector is basically selecting everything on the HTML page. I've given it a margin 0, padding 0, border sizing, border box. So this property, I'll leave a link in the description where you could go deep into box sizing, border box. But majorly it's just to minimize the padding you give to a box, to a container like the div tag. So I'll leave a link in the description where you could watch videos on how to handle that. So you might be asking, why did I give this a margin 0 and a padding 0? I don't want any fixed padding that the browser will give my page. I want to be the one to define the padding I want, and I also want to be the one to define the margin I want. I don't want the browser to give a margin to something. So now I have the body selector, which is containing the my background, where I have this URL and a linear gradient. So if you notice, so you could see this gradient stuff here and the background. So I have background attachment fixed. So this is basically saying, okay, I want this that are on the background to be everywhere on the page. And my font family, I'm using Montserrat. I love that font. You should probably get it. And my text color, I want all my text color to be white. So spacing, if you remember in my HTML page, I gave the first div spacing, and I gave my main element spacing also. So the spacing is basically saying, okay, I want the width of these two elements that are in the container to be width of 80%, and I want margin auto. So if you've never used margin auto, it's just saying, okay, I want everything to be at the center, at the middle, but it works with the width. You have to define a width for the margin auto to work. So let's go back here. So if you notice, I have this space and this space. So there's the yellowish space, this and this are my spacing. So now that that's explained, let's go back. So now the nav tag or the nav selector, because we're in CSS, I gave it a background color of this, and padding of 1 em. So basically, padding is simply saying 1 times 16 pixels. So if you don't know, the browser actually takes 16 pixels. That is the default pixels assigned to the browser. So when I say em, instead of saying 16 pixels times 2, I just say 1 em, which is the same thing as 16 pixels times 2. So now, the first method to center your element. So I use display flex here. I know if you've not used display flex before, it's going to seem complicated. I'll also leave a link in the description where you could watch videos on how to use display flex and all its other properties. So you use display flex on my URL tag. So this guy here, whenever you're using display flex, you have to use it on a container. So as you can see, this is housing all this. So the URL is housing all the li elements, all the list elements. So I said justify content space evenly. So as you can see, aside from the spacing I've given to the right and left side, the rest of the space in between are even. So just to show you why they are centered, I'm going to do this on comments. All this I've created and this. So here I've targeted the first element of the first list element. So this is a featured class saying list targets the first child, which is this content here, and giving it a height of 30 pixels, which will be higher than the rest of the list element. So as you can see, this is taking the height of 30 pixels while all these are centered. So that's because of this align center. So if I should comment that out, now everything are on top, taking the width of the first one. So by using align center, you make everything always center at the container. So I'm going to comment these two out and this and also this. So moving on, we have the URL li. So now I'm just giving the li the featured class of over, just to beautify things. So when I do this and this and this and this, so now this is the basic. So I've targeted my h1 element, which is the position anything center. I'm giving it the padding. So padding is just basically space inside your box, then text align center. So this is the basic way of centering something. Text align center, then give the color, the font size. So center P. So my HTML page, we have the center and we have the P. So I'm targeting each of the P tag, giving it margin bottom, a font size of 1.2 em. Now we move to the third method of centering things. So here we'll center it vertically and horizontally. So as you can see, so we have horizontal, vertical. So these two are centered vertically and horizontally. So they're centered like that. Let me open my border so you can see them well. So I said the padding of 40 pixels. So top and bottom 40 pixels, right and left 0 pixels. Then text align center. Then the maximum width is 663 pixels. So I'm saying, okay, when it gets to 663 pixels, I want it to stop. Don't go up. So as you can see, it stops going. But if I should comment this out and drag it, it keeps going as long as there's space for it to go. So it keeps going, and basically you wouldn't want this. So leave that and margin auto. So the margin auto is just saying, okay, remain at the center as you've seen using the navbar. So now the fourth method is how to position anything vertically. So you could just, so positioning anything vertically, just vertically. You don't want it to actually be vertically, sorry, you don't want it to actually be centered horizontally, just vertically. So you could give top and bottom a padding of 40 pixels, left and right 0. So if you should change this to 10 pixels, so you can see this little gap here. So we leave it as 0 pixels. So that is if and only if you want something to be centered vertically. So we move to the third method, which will be our image. So we have display block. So image by default, it's inline, so it isn't a block. So you have to declare, okay, display block before the margin auto property would work. Without saying display block, the image won't work even though you've added a margin auto to it. So now I'm saying width 50%. Note, I'm always using percentage. Percentage is basically taking out of 100, out of the whole 100 of the browser width, take 50%. Remember, I've given it a margin auto, so you're staying at the center, but at every time take 50%. So no matter, once I increase this, now that the browser is taking 100%, so the image always be 50% centered of the browser's 100%. I hope you understand that. So now this is the A tag, which are all these elements. So I've given them some properties: text align center, display block, because the A tag isn't a block element also. So over, I reduce the opacity to create this effect. So now we look at the input tag or the input selector. Don't mind me, in HTML you call them tag, meanwhile in CSS you call them selector, because you're selecting those tags. So now we have the display block, because they aren't block elements in the HTML, they are inline elements in the HTML. So we give them a width of 100%. So when you say display block, okay, it goes down, because looking at the form here, we have our label. A label too is not a block element, it's also an inline. So you're saying input display block, so the input moves down to this position, and you're saying width 100%, always be 100% of the container you are in. So border none, I removed the border and I added a border bottom 2 pixels purple, which is this, see here, padding 10 pixels just to give it a space, so when you're typing at least it's not all squishy. So margin top, so when it's on focus, say the color change. So we have the move. If you remember, I gave this here a move class. So let me increase this. I give the move class, then we have the form class of move, then a div element, a container housing the label and the input. So now, if you've never seen anything called position relative, position absolute, I also leave a link in the description where you could experiment and learn a little bit on position relative and position absolute. So I'm saying move position relative. So now, once there's a position relative, there has to be something to be position absolute. So now I'm targeting the class form, where I've given it this background color, border radius, now the color black. So all my text should be black, and I'm saying padding, okay, 4 AM 5 AM, so 4 AM here top and bottom, then 5 AM right and left. So the width, I assigned a specific width here, so 350 pixels. So as you can see, as I increase this, it's always 350 pixels. It isn't responsive like my image. So on the mobile view, it's looking nice, but when I increase this, it doesn't go. So it isn't responsive. So if you want to make it responsive, you could do this. So say width 50%. So 50% of the 100% of the browser. So comment this out. So now, while I increase the browser, it is 50%. But I have a max width of 500 pixels. So when you get to 500 pixels, stop. So if I should comment that out and I keep going, it keeps enlarging, and this is really bad. You don't want your form to be this long. This is too long. So comment that out. So the reason why this is actually working is because of this. If you look at the class here, I have a main center for this form element. So this is saying position absolute. So remember here we've given it position relative. So now this element here is related to this element here because this is relative and this is absolute. So this element, like these properties here that are position absolute, are related to the ones that are in position relative. In other words, it wouldn't move from the container. So normally when you give something position absolute, it's supposed to like overflow, get out of the normal position you've given it. But here I'm saying this is relative, so whatever I do here always be in this move selector. So this is something you just have to know and put in your head that okay, when you want to make something centered and you want to use this method, you have to say position absolute, top 50%, left 50%, transform, translate minus 50%, comma minus 50%. That just does the job well for you. So now there's another way of doing this in case you don't want to type all of this. So we move to the 7th method of how to position anything centered. So here we have a div class of form1 and another div having a class of form1 content, then spacing. So as you've seen, the spacing is just giving it this space at the left and right. So now the 7th method. So I'm going to on the border, so you can see that clearly. Turn this up. So now I said a width of 100% and the background color of this padding 4 em, top everywhere padding 4 em. The color of my text, I wanted them to be black and have a border radius 40 pixels. So that's just curves this part here. Margin bottom 2 em. I just wanted the extra space down here. Then I said max width 500 pixels. So if I should comment this out and keep dragging, you see it grows like this one did when we made the width percentage. So it keeps growing. So that's because I give it a width of 100%. So always be 100% of that container, of the container from 1. So we don't want it to keep growing. So in order to stop it from growing, we give it a max width of 500 pixels. So then it stops growing. So I hope you've learned something from these 7 methods of positioning anything center. I'll leave the link to the code on my GitHub account so you could get it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.